Incredible!
Hello, I'm Chris.
I'm Charlie.
I'm your dad.
And I'm your son.
And we both love sports.
And sports betting.
And sports betting, Charlie. And the nature of this pod is we're trying to make some money on the side, aren't we, of our love of sports?
Exactly. That's why we're here. And
yes.
We also say that this isn't our first time doing this, even though it's the first time that we're publishing our kind of endeavours into the world of sports betting. And I think, from my opinion, I think we've not been doing too badly in our recent history of doing it.
Yeah, we call this Double Your Money, and we have been doubling our money for the most part. The format of this, I mean, we'll get to the tips and the bets in as quick as we can. But essentially, what we do each week is we pick 5 or 6 bets, largely based on your intimate knowledge of sports betting, and we bet up to £100 we've got a ceiling on, don't we? Normally we're somewhere around £15 per bet, and the aim is each week to try and double our money. And this isn't really a sort of venture to get a villa in the sun. It's more to sort of enhance our enjoyment of sports, which is what we think many people like to do on the side. Really, it's just to add a little bit of a frisson, something,
a little bit of seasoning, I think, to our
little bit of
sports that we would be watching anyway.
Yes,
it's something nicer to have a bit of skin in the game, and as you say, small wagers, £5-10, and can often make the game more exciting, whether it be football, golf, tennis, you name it. We've seemed to have covered it in the last sort of 3 or 4 months. But
yeah, because we launched this into the teeth of the sort of dying embers of the last football season, and had two or three good weeks, and then over the summer we've been backing a lot of different sports, a lot of American sports. We've gone hard at the MLB, Major League Baseball, the NBA, the women's NBA. What else have we been doing? A bit of golf, a bit of cricket.
Tennis. We had the women's Euros as well, which England won. We made some money there. I'm trying to think. Like you say, the NBA goes right the way through to June. So, like you say, we've covered pretty much. I don't want to say every sport, but it's safe to say we're kind of jacks of all trades rather than focusing on one particular sport. Even a bit of horse racing. I think we had maybe a couple of bets on horse racing.
Essentially, what we're trying to do here is back our insight in sport, really. I mean, we both love it. We've watched a lot of sport, played a lot of sport over the years, and I think what we try to do is back our judgment and our understanding of sport patterns, to have a little bit of a flutter and make some money. And I think before we get onto the forthcoming Premier League season, which starts this weekend, this is sort of midweek before the big curtain raiser this weekend. We've gone quite hard on American sports, and I think that's partly because we feel, speaking for you a little bit here, that the repeatable patterns of American sport lend themselves to betting, simply because there's a bit more data. The data is maybe more reliable.
For sure, yeah, and I think it's also the nature of it is they play a lot more. So you talk about that we covered the MLB throughout the summer. They play almost 150 games per team. Yeah. Same with NBA, and as you mentioned, the nature of the sport and the patterns of play and the statistical approaches to their lineups, and everything in those American sports seems to be on kind of a numbers-based performances, and they lend themselves to trends, patterns, as you say that we can highlight and have been kind of highlighting and kind of making the most of to try and make some money, as well as enjoying the sport itself.
What we try and do, just to sort of set the ground rules a little bit here, is we generally bet sort of smaller odds than some people, certainly in the UK market, might be useful. I think the UK betting habit is to try and spot long odds so that you can make a small wager. What we tend to do is bet sort of £10 to return £10. So if people are out there are looking for big odds tips, probably not going to come. Although, but having said that, I have got a couple for this week.
Nice, yeah.
But I think that's what differentiates what we do in the UK from maybe the American market, where they'll wager bigger stakes for smaller odds, whereas in the UK, we're looking for a sort of Hail Mary home run, aren't we? That comes in.
Absolutely. You see the average wager in the US will be a lot larger than those in the UK. You know, the reasoning behind that is almost unknown, but as you say, they bet bigger stakes on shorter odds. We'll bet the bigger odds but shorter stakes. Perhaps kind of obviously which are much less likely to win, but perhaps when they do win are a little bit more fun when they do win.
The longer odds one, you mean? Because what we're trying to control the outcomes anyway. I mean, this you know, this will come to light in the course of our chat today, I'm sure. But it's the Premier League is back, hurrah! But you know, trumpet fanfare. If we could afford an effect, I'd put one in here. But anyway, it's a big weekend. I should say we have some skin in the game. We are both lifelong supporters of the splendid Brighton Hove Albion, season ticket holders.
For sure.
We'll be there on Saturday for the visit of Fulham. And then we're going to Everton the following weekend.
We are. I think
we'll get to that.
Could be the first time in a couple of years that we've been to the opening home and away game of a campaign. But yeah, it's I'd say a fairly nice fixture for Brighton to kick off with, a home game for one, and you know, Fulham who had a decent year last year, but it's not Liverpool and Arsenal. But as you say, that's one of 10 Premier League games that start this weekend. We actually kick off with the champions. Actually, they're hosting Bournemouth on Friday night.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, a nice marquee fixture to look forward to. So I think without further ado, if you let me, I'd like to take us to a bet straight away.
Well, absolutely. But just to sort of map things out here, presumably today we're putting together some tips and parlays for this weekend's fixture list. But are we also going to do some season long runners? Are we going to try and pick a goal scorer or a top four or this or the other this week?
For sure. I think there's three that I've highlighted. You know, in the US, you call these futures bets. You know, the best way of explaining them to someone who hasn't done them before is you're betting on outcomes like to win the league, to be relegated, top half finish, to make the Champions League, which obviously take an awful long time for that bet to pay out. But sometimes, you know, these are the ones you maybe want to look at a bit of a longer odds, or as you said, combine a couple of selections. You might maybe from a couple of different leagues. You might pick a team to be relegated from the Premier League, but pick a team to be promoted from the Championship. Okay. And I think that's certainly something. I know we've had a couple of weeks already of EFL, but there's a couple of futures bets, as they're called, that I've highlighted, which would be fun to track across the season.
Who's going to win the title, Char?
I think it's going to be a bit of a boring or vanilla play, but I think it's going straight back to Liverpool. If anything, I know they've lost some big names in Trent and Luis Diaz, and you know, obviously the unfortunate news of Diogo Jota and Darwin Núñez has left, but they brought in, you know, Ekitike, Frimpong, Florian Wirtz, and in my opinion, they've almost upgraded. And I know how big a fan you are of Victor Gyökeres signing for Arsenal, and I think they're probably the team that are going to compete with them for the title again. Wouldn't you agree?
I wonder. I mean, I think what's interesting this season, I think, is that 9 teams in the Premier League in Europe, I think, is going to have a massive impact. And that's going to ripple through the whole of the fixture list. And with my Brighton hat on for a second, I think that's good news for us, because it means 9 teams that we play are going to be coming back from preparing to go to some European ties. And I think that's going to be felt in the top 4 most of all. And it's going to be the clubs with the biggest squads. And that is Arsenal, Liverpool, potentially Chelsea, less so Newcastle. I think, you know, their squad looks sort of net weaker. Maybe City are sort of in transition. You know, they've done some business, they bought Turkey, and haven't they, and Reinders. Where were we going with this? Yeah, I mean,
who's your winner?
Yeah, I wonder. It's unusual, apart from City aside. It's unusual for clubs to go back to back. I mean, I have to say it's not easy to defend a Premier League title. It's not often done. Is Arne Slot going to win the Premier League in his first 2 seasons as a new manager? I don't know. I mean, you know, looking at the stats and the odds, you'd think against it.
I think they're good to go back to back.
Yeah, and it's not a bet I'd be looking at, because to be honest with you, if you pick any of the top 4, 6 clubs to win it, the odds are ridiculously short. So, you know, it's not one I'm keen to go at. I would just FYI look at top goal scorer in the league, because I am strongly of the opinion that Victor Gyökeres has got a shout at that, just because he scores goals, and everyone goes on about, oh, he's untested, he's never played at this level, but you know, the quality of the Arsenal wing play, what they were screaming out for last year clearly was someone to put it in the net, and they didn't have that person, but I think they have now. So I don't know what you get on top goal scorer in the league.
Victor Gyökeres 14-1 best price.
14-1.
So obviously, it's heavily favoured in favour of obviously Mo Salah and Erling Haaland. So you know, outside of those two, it's a kind of, the field is a general kind of better play. You're getting names like Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, Joao Pedro. I think might be a little bit of a sneaky shout for, you know, top goal scorer this year if he hits the ground running as he has been in pre-season. But I think, as you say, Gyökeres, you know, it's all there for him to go and score 30 goals, but it's just, I don't know if that quality translates from Portugal to England.
I just think he's a beast. I mean, I think he scored. He's brilliant in the air. He's the sort of player that can get the ball with back to goal, turn a defender, out-muscle defenders, and finish. I mean, and you know, as I said, the quality of the wingers that Arsenal have got, you know, not just Acca, but on the left, I think, you know, they'll get plenty of supply to him. So anyway, I mean, I say this, I'm not, you know, a massive Arsenal fan. I don't have much skin in any of the top 6 clubs. I like Arsenal because generally Brighton do well against them, and they do good football. But I would say, just in terms of trying to the futures market, if I was going to go for one, I'd go for Victor Gyökeres to be Premier League top scorer. You heard it here first. Yeah. What else have you been looking at long term? Have you looked at anything else? Relegation for sure. I mean, so many people talk these days of the gap between the Championship and Premier League being as big as it ever has. You know, you can only get 2-1 odds on all 3 promoted teams to be relegated again. And I don't think that's a price worth taking. I think Burnley to finish bottom at just shy of 3-1 is a fairly good bet, because I think they're not quite as strong as the other 2 promoted teams, not necessarily in quality, but I also think in stature. You know, Leeds came up a couple of years ago and stayed up under Bielsa. And Sunderland have been signing players left, right, and centre. I'm actually even wearing a Simon Adingra shirt. They signed one of our boys. But I think what Sunderland and Leeds have that Burnley don't is a strong fan base and a big club. So I think Burnley to finish bottom is a fairly decent bet, should you be taking it. And obviously, as a Brighton fan, year on year, I tend to look at the odds. Not necessarily entertain them and play any of them, but for Brighton to finish top 4, to win the league, top 6, top half. We're at double money price to finish top half this season, which I think is a good bet, given that we've, you know, finished in the top half two of the last 3 years. Last year we came 8th, and given 9 teams in Europe that should be theoretically more tired, and with us just having to play, you know, 1 game a week, we should be able to overcome that. I think Chelsea top 4 is another one that I had written down is a good price, just above double your money price, given they made some good signings. They made a lot of signings the last 3 years, but this team sort of feels like it's kind of gelled. I think Enzo Maresca's got them playing some pretty good football. Obviously, they won the Club World Cup, so riding a bit of a wave, and I think they're a pretty good bet to sneak a kind of traditional or conventional Champions League spot by getting into that top 4. So as I said, Burnley to finish bottom, Brighton top half, and Chelsea to finish in the top 4. Is that your 3-leg parlay? That's my 3-leg parlay coming out at 12-1. So that's a fairly nice price to cover 3 teams rather than just perhaps looking at one across the season. So, and I wouldn't be too bothered if Brighton kind of prove me wrong and finish top 6 instead. Well, I was looking at Bet365 earlier, which is my sort of go-to app. Not sponsored, but maybe in future. Bet365, if you're watching. Brighton are 16-1 in the top 4, which didn't seem very generous to me at all. I mean, which is flattering for our club, but not particularly juicy market, I wouldn't have thought. Not at all. No, I think, you know, a lot of people's kind of non-Brighton fans and, you know, analysts and pundits seem to be very high on Brighton this year, which I think is a good thing. But, you know, we followed our pre-season games, and
we've got a lot of exciting attackers. You know, Minte, Ruta, Mitoma, a couple of new young Greek fellas up front. But I just think our defence is still kind of imperfect. So I think we're going to be a bit of the same story as last season. We're going to score a lot of goals, but we're going to concede a lot of goals as well, which actually comes into one of our bets this week. So
okay,
we'll see if my thoughts come true.
I just on the futures thing, I mentioned Gyökeres. I think I've got a three-way perm for relegation, which I think is going to be Burnley, Sunderland, and my wild card is I think Bournemouth are going to go down this year.
Okay.
I just think if you rip the defence out of any Premier League club, like they have, and the window's not closed yet, they could still do some business. But I just think, you know, they don't seem to have the sort of the next conveyor. The thing that Tony Bloom has done so brilliantly for our club is to have the next, you know, set coming through. You know, so if you lose marquee players and they've lost four of theirs.
Well, Hoyson, Kirkes has gone. Kleibert's injured. I think
Kleibert's injured. Who's the other centre back that's just going?
Zaberni, he's going to go. They lost Kepa, the goalkeeper, as well. So
I'd be worried if I was a Bournemouth fan, and you know they're a pretty resilient club, and they may well prove me wrong, but that would be my three. But anyway, that's sort of the longer lead stuff. Let's get to the business of the week here because we've got a full programme of games. What's caught your eye in the market?
We do indeed. It's a game involving, you know, aforementioned Bournemouth. Actually, I think it makes sense that we've been deprived of Premier League football for 3 months now, so we may as well make the most of it. Friday night's game. As I said earlier, it's the champions Liverpool hosting Bournemouth. And I've got a single one bet in that game, which is 2 legs. And I've got Liverpool to win and both teams to score in the game. Right. Now, you mentioned Bournemouth's defence being ripped apart. Their attack was actually fairly kind of prominent last season. You know, like Evan Nilsson, good player. Antoine Semenyo, I know, was a fantasy kind of gem for most people out there. And combining that with Liverpool's sort of leakier defence of late. I know Arne Slot had his kind of concerns after, you know, we don't really talk about Crystal Palace, but the Charity Shield, Community Shield was a 2-2 game, and, you know, they could have conceded a couple more. Yeah. So I think Liverpool have plenty of firepower, as we know, up front, you know, Mane, Ekitike, you know, Gakpo, so their whole cohort, they could put 5 past this Bournemouth team. But I think Bournemouth will score. So I've gone for Liverpool to win and both teams to score in Friday night's Premier League opener. Now, a £10 bet on that returns £24 overall. So just over double your money price. And I think that's quite a good bet.
Okay. I don't think Mane's playing, just FYI. I think that was a slip of the...
Not Mane. No, Gakpo did, I was meant to say.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Salah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, you're back in Bournemouth to score at Anfield, but who knows? Maybe. Yeah, Liverpool do give you chances. So that's bet one, is it? So what are we doing? That's a tenner to return...
Tenner into 24.
Tenner into 24. Okay. That's on Friday night.
That's on Friday nights.
And what has caught your eye from the Saturday fixtures? We will be...
Well, I'm going to merge one of the Saturday fixtures. It's a game we're going to, Brighton, Fulham. And I'm also still going to take a leg from the Liverpool-Bournemouth game. I'm going to have both of those games to be over 2.5 goals in the match. So for those of you that are perhaps new to sports betting, you have the half line, essentially means to score 3 or more goals in the match. Now, those goals can come from either team. We could have a Liverpool 3-0 win and a Brighton 3-0 win, which would be lovely. And that bet will win.
Except we need Bournemouth to score on Friday night.
We need Bournemouth to score, of course, yeah. So a 3-1 or a 2-1 Liverpool win would be great. Just 3 or more goals in both of those games. Now, as I said, Liverpool don't have any problem scoring goals. They had 4 goals in their game at the weekend against Crystal Palace. And Brighton and Fulham, I touched on Brighton's kind of leaky defence, but kind of exciting attack. Both games, Brighton and Fulham last year went over 2.5 goals. We beat them 2-1 at home, and we actually lost 3-1 away from home. And both these teams have quite kind of attacking managers. I know Hertz likes to kind of play some quite transitional football, free-flowing, and same for Marco Silva. So I'm going to take over 2.5 goals in Liverpool, Bournemouth, and over 2.5 goals in Brighton, Fulham.
Okay. Well, okay. I bow to your data analysis. The one thing I would say is whenever we've gone over on goals for Brighton in the history of this pod at the end of last season, we didn't hit the line, do we? Because they ended up being low-scoring games. But that's
I think you're right. Now I cast my mind back. We had Brighton, Nottingham Forest in the cup final, 0-0.
Yeah.
I don't think that, I think we had our pre-season games have all been high scoring. We played Wolfsburg last week. I'm not sure if you watched the highlights of that. Wolfsburg could have scored about 5. So hopefully I'm kind of proven right in a good way about Brighton.
So maybe this is a junction to jump in and just explain the sort of markets we look at in football, because I think a lot of football betting is around first goal scorer, result, money line, as the Americans would call it, outcome. What we tend to look at is number of goals, both teams to score. I've got a both teams to score 4-leg parlay, which I want to talk about in a minute. But nice. These are markets where maybe they keep the betting fun open longer. If you go first goal scorer and then a goal goes in and it's not your man or woman, then that's your bet dead. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you go both teams to score, got the whole 90+ minutes, for that outcome to change, which we feel sort of,
for sure,
keeps the fun alive.
Yeah, so if in the instance of this both over 2.5 goals bet, we kind of don't really mind which team scores first. Whereas if you perhaps have bet on Brighton to win and Fulham went 1-0 up straight off the bat, you're working uphill, and it's a long way to go. And I'd always kind of advocate betting on things that can last, that can happen within the full 90 minutes, rather than kind of outcomes in the first half, first goal scorer, because as fun as they are, and they are rewarded with the longer odds, you're more likely to lose. I'm
reminded of us watching the Champions League semi-final, I think it was, wasn't it? When we had, because we also bet on the card market, don't we? Yellow cards, red cards in games, and this and the other. And in the Paris Saint-Germain Inter Milan game, we had over goals. We needed over 3 goals, I think it was, and it was obviously it was a goal fest, and we needed one player to get a yellow card, and that player had scored a goal, and then immediately took his shirt off, and we were jumping up and down, not because he'd scored a goal, because we didn't have that line, but we had a yellow card for him.
Exactly, yeah.
And we knew that once he took his shirt off, that it was going to be a yellow card. And that was like the 89th, 90th minute, wasn't it? But
that was a fantastic moment, yeah.
And we hit that bet. That was the thing. So I mean, the point is that what we would encourage people to do is look at, just in terms of controlling outcomes, that's what we're all about here.
Yeah.
It's sort of, looking for more generous odds in categories where you can maybe quantify and predict the outcomes a bit more. So numbers of goals in games, yellow cards, disciplinary. Maybe this is my chance to just flag one of mine. We'll come back and
for sure. Let's do that.
We'll do a recap here. I've got 2 bets of myself. One is both teams to score. I've got 4 games in which I think both teams are going to score. One of them is Villa Newcastle, which is at Villa. I think both those sides have got octane up front, and even without Isaac, I think Newcastle's still got a goal in them at Villa Park. Wolves City, I think opening day at home, Wolves are going to score. City are going to score. They always score. I think the Sunday game, Manchester United and Arsenal, is going to be a goal fest. I think there'll be lots of goals in that. And I think there'll be a goal each side. It might even be a 1-1 Sunderland West Ham.
Okay.
The Saturday game. So those 4 combined give us an odds of 7-1, which again, by multiplying the number of legs into a bet builder, which the UK betting market would recognize, or a parlay for the Americans out there, we sort of increase the odds. Because if you went both teams to score in one of those games, the odds would be marginal.
You're probably not doubling your money there, but as you say, it's much more kind of enticing and rewarding to combine different legs into one bet, one accumulator, as you say, in the UK, or one parlay in America. But that sounds good, with good reasoning as well. I think the good thing about the both teams to score market is a lot of people think, in my head, I go to a 1-1 result, with both teams scoring, but you could have a 5-1, or a 4-2. So a team can get thrashed and you can still win this bet, which is why I think it's a fun market to explore.
Exactly. So at 7-1, I'd be advocating £10 stake on that. Do you think?
Let's do that. 7-1, so £10 would return £80. Should all 4 of those games?
I'll say that for those people out there, and we cap this sort of spend at £100. Generally, we don't get to £100 in our stake money, but it doesn't have to be £100. You know, even if you put £2.50 or a fiver on 7-1. That's, you know, you're getting generous return on your margin if you hit it. So yeah. So anyway, so that's so tenner on that. That would be our bet 3, wouldn't it? Because our bet 2 was the 2-leg parlay you had. 2-leg, yeah. And have you got a bet 4 for us? You mentioned you might have another one. I have got a bet 4. Now this is on a specific game here, and I've used this really just to sort of highlight some of the points we've made about looking for categories here. And this is what a lot of the gambling betting sites would offer as a bet builder, where you can perm 4, 5, 6, well, however many outcomes you want to from a single event. Could be a basketball game, baseball game. In this case, it's a Premier League football game between Chelsea and Crystal Palace. That's Crystal Palace of the Conference League. And this one, I've got a player to score or assist. I've got a player to get a yellow card. I've got a player to get a shot on target in the game, 1 shot on target. I've backed the match outcome on one side of the game, and I've gone over 2 goals in the game. All right. And
so can I stop you there and say, yeah, can I guess your bet builder?
Okay, absolutely.
And we'll go leg by leg. Tell me if I'm right. So I think the player you've got to score or assist is Cole Palmer.
Incorrect.
Okay, the player for the card, I think you've got Moises Caicedo.
Absolutely, yeah, nailed on. Yellow card.
And the player shot on target I had in my head first time around was Joao Pedro.
No,
I think you're going to...
Joao Pedro to score an assist.
Yeah.
Moises Caicedo yellow card. I've gone on the Palace side for the shot on target. Can you think of that with that pick?
Mateta? Eze. Yeah.
Always good for a shot on target from outside the box is Eberechi Eze, I think. You know, great player, I have to say. He wears a Palace shirt, which is a shame, but
it might not be at Palace too much longer, so maybe we can appreciate
it. It's interesting, isn't it? You know, I think Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Brentford are feeling some of the pain, their support that we felt in recent years, where you have a good season and your players are in the shop window, and you face a dilemma about when do you cash your players. I mean, this might come back to bite. Just digressing slightly here to bite us, because I noticed in today's sort of speculation they're talking up the Carlos Baleba to Manchester United thing, which would be a tragedy. But without getting into that one, it looks like, you know, Gahey and Eze will probably leave, won't they? Because they can't afford to those players to leave on a free transfer.
Exactly.
But that's another thing. So basically, I've gone Pedro the score assist, Caicedo yellow card, Eze shot on target, Chelsea to win, because I think they will, and over 2 goals in the game, which is those combination of 5 legs. Sorry.
Yeah.
What do you think that's worth?
20-1.
16-1.
16-1. Close enough. Yeah.
And I would just put a fiver on that, because it's 16-1. You know, it's 5 outcomes, so we need quite a lot of things to happen. Of those 5 things, well, I won't get into that, you know, because there's no guarantee that Caicedo will get a yellow card, although generally he does. And there's no guarantee that Eze will get a shot on target. Generally, the shots is the market to go for, isn't it, rather than shots on target?
It is. That could be a shot blocked or go out for a throw in. You know, regardless, if they try and have a shot, that ticks a green on your bet slip. But as you say, shot on target, I like that. And as you say, 5 small stake at a longer odds price is always a bit of fun.
Okay, those are my 2 bets for this weekend, Char. That gets us up to 4 bets. So have you still got something on your ticket?
I've got a couple. I've got 3 more for you, and I've got one a little bit longer odds. And we're actually diving into the EFL with the other 2. So I'll give you the other 2 shorter odds first. We should also kind of mention people watching that my cousin, your nephew, Jeremy Kelly, spent a season and a half at Crawley Town before departing in the summer. And Crawley have started horribly without him, we should say. Have lost the first 3 games, maybe a little asterisk on that 3 games because they played higher league opposition in Swansea in the Cup, but they lost at home to Newport and away at Grimsby. And this weekend, it's a repeat of the playoff final, actually, 2 years ago. They're taking on Crewe Alexandra at Crewe. But my football knowledge escapes me there. I'm sure you could give me the name of the Crewe Alexandra Stadium.
Well, I know they're the Railwaymen. That's the club, isn't it? You know.
That it's not the station ground or something like that. You know,
no.
the platform end. You know, should
I don't want to embarrass myself by hazarding a guess because I'll probably get it wrong. But I want to say, is it not Gresty Road or something like that? Is it? Oh, I can Google it while you're on that. Go on, keep chatting to me.
That's true. But on the flip side, Crewe have been absolutely fantastic this season. They played 1-2, and are looking really good. They're actually top of the league at the moment. I know it's only 2 games into a 46-game season, but Crewe Alexandra are absolutely flying at the moment. Had a good win away at Salford on opening day, and then beat Accrington away Saturday just gone. And I was really surprised when I looked at the odds in this game, how flattering I think the bookies were being towards Crawley, who have played poorly and lost 2 games. So I'd like to take Crewe to win and Crewe to score 2 goals in the game, which, just as a note, has cashed in every Crawley game this season. You know, Crawley's opposition beating them and scoring 2 goals. And you're getting odds of 5-4 there, so just above double your money price. And I'd like to advocate the biggest bet of the week of that of £15 to return.
£15, no way. On unreliable Crawley.
I can reduce that down to 10 if you like, which returns as 27. But as I say,
the basis that we're in profit so far are doing it. You know, we can stick our neck out on that. I think, yeah.
Sounds good. But as I said, Crewe are flying, Crawley doing the opposite. I think that's a really good price. Crewe alone to win the game is 10-11, so -110 for US kind of audiences. Almost double your money price just to win the game alone, and I think that's
right.
A real
happy with £15. Even happier to report that my Gresty Road punt was correct, or it would have been correct. It's been rebranded. It's now called the Mornflake Stadium, which I guess is part of a sponsorship deal. But there you go. Kudos to me for knowing Crewe Alexandra played at Gresty Road and that they're called the Railwaymen. But
Well, let's hope that's a good omen then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love the fact that you're pinning Crawley's faltering start of the season on the departure of Jeremy Kelly as well.
You've got to stick up with your family, though, don't you? Really? I'm not saying that he would have, made the difference when they were 3-0 down away at Grimsby, but perhaps at Hunter Newport last week he could have notched a goal or assist. Yes. But we wish him well.
We do wish him well. Charleston Battery. I hope they see the sense and start him.
Yeah,
I don't want to embarrass him any more than we already have done. So let's move on to your final bet of the weekend.
Final bet of the weekend. This is kind of a bit of a more serious bet, and I've got one little fun one to go for at the end. We go to the Championship here. We've only had one weekend of Championship football, but I'm betting on 2 teams, both to win at home. 2 teams that were both finished top half last season. Bristol City are the first team. They host Charlton. Bristol City finishing the final playoff spot last year before being beaten by Sheffield United, and then they absolutely thrashed Sheffield United on Sunday at Bramall Lane 4-1. Devastating performance.
That's a strange result. That sort of felt like an end of season result, that one, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Sheffield United were booed, and how often do you see a team booed in the first game of the season? But and I think Bristol City scored their first 3 shots. So if that doesn't say how clinical they are, Scott Swine scored a lovely free kick in the opening 15 minutes. But they play Middlesbrough this weekend. So I'm taking Bristol City to win at home against Middlesbrough, against Charlton, sorry. And I should say, I've given a little spoiler away there as a team that's going to beat Middlesbrough, and it's Millwall, who I found interesting is that hadn't won at Carrow Road for 15 years before beating Norwich City 2-1 on the weekend. A lot of the sort of sharp and kind of in the know Championship and EFL kind of podcasters, tipsters are tipping Millwall to finish in the playoffs this year. They've got a good kind of young team, a lot of players that, even Jake Cooper is still there at Millwall. But, first game at the Den, South London, 3 p.m. kickoff, Middlesbrough coming down. It's a long trip. I really like Millwall to go 2 from 2 here and get a nice home win. And the double there is paying 3-1 on Millwall and Bristol City to win. So I'd like just £10 on that to give us an overall return of £40.
Okay. Well, I love the fact you've done this deep dive, well, relatively deep dive into the Championship football. There you go.
Perfect. Well, I'll offer you up a little fun bet as well, because it's funny you mentioned Joao Pedro to score assist. There's and you also mentioned how Brighton in the past have had our players pinched from various clubs, and other teams are feeling the effect of that. We've actually kind of got a fairly nice lineup of ex-Brighton strikers in the Premier League these days. Two of which, people might not know have played for Brighton. And the first player I've got, these are three players all to score this weekend, is, of course, Joao Pedro, £60 million signing. Chelsea are playing Crystal Palace. I've got Joao Pedro to score. I've got the big man on debut, Victor Gyökeres, also ex-Brighton, for those of you that didn't know. I think you've got a real soft spot for him, and it's crazy to have a soft spot for someone who plays such little time for Brighton.
I can't be really sold him though. Even when I saw him play, I thought he's a big ox of a player. Brighton very rarely get their transfer business wrong, and they did on that one clearly. But anyway, the one that got away.
The one that got away, indeed. So I've got Joao Pedro, Victor Gyökeres, and the final ex-Brighton striker is Chris Wood. Now, Nottingham Forest have got Brentford at home, who I think, as you said, might struggle a little bit this season. They've lost their manager, lost Brian Mbeumo. I know Vista is kind of trying to force a move out. But Forest have got a nice kind of easy-ish, in inverted commas, home game there. I think Chris Wood's their man to get them underway in the new season. So I've got Joao Pedro, Chris Wood, Victor Gyökeres. I'm going to call it the ex-Brighton striker accumulator. It's coming in at 12-1.
12-1. Oh, I'm amazed.
All three of those.
Say that's going to be really short odds. 12-1 seems generous.
12-1. Yeah. So I'm going to take just £5 on that to return as £60.
All right. Brentford manager, ex-Albion.
Ex-Albion as well. Yeah. Let's hope that he's the only ex-Albion kind of related manager in the Premier League soon before Hurtzler or gets pinched or De Zerbi comes back to the Premier League. But
I don't think Hurtzler's going anywhere anytime soon. No, I have to. I mean, to be honest with you, just that's fine. Happy to do it. So a fiver on that, was it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, to be honest with you, the window is how much longer the window is? Still 2.5 weeks or whatever it is, isn't it? Before end of August, isn't it? Is that the end of the window?
Yeah. So 17, 18 days. So yeah.
I mean, going into this transfer window, just finishing this on a sort of Brighton theme, which has been the theme. I always thought it'd be a good window if we still had Matoma at the end of it, which fingers crossed is going to happen, because I think largely because Bayern ended up getting Diaz from Liverpool. Otherwise, they were coming for Carew, weren't they? But and we need to hold on to Carlos.
Yeah, I think that is almost kind of all paper talk. It's people say it's Man United, and that's a different kind of knock. But I think that your point on Matoma is so pivotal. When you see, Brentford lose their best player in Mbeumo, Newcastle losing their best player in Isak, West Ham keeping kind of Jarrett Bowen, Wolves have lost Cunha. Like the fact that those sort of kind of teams that I still compare to Brighton are all sort of losing their guy.
Yeah.
The fact that we've been able to, touch wood, hold on to Karim Matoma has been testament to the kind of Brighton staff and management for keeping him involved for another season at least.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we need some of our new guys to fire, but let's see. I'm looking forward to seeing them on Saturday. To be honest with you, I didn't go in for the World Club Challenge, and it was all felt like football at the wrong time of the year. I don't want to get too bar humbug about these things, but you need an off season. I mean, you just need it. The players clearly, but we need them as fans, because there's so much football these days. And much as I love the sport and the game, and I do, you can have too much of a good thing. But I'm ready for it to come back, and I'm looking forward to seeing you down there on Saturday. I'm looking forward to seeing how these bets go. As soon as we're going to put these up, we should make these bets available somewhere. So I can either put them in the description below. That might be the wise thing to do. If we had our act together, I'd animate them and put them up as graphics. For the time being, what I'm saying is, if people want to follow these, I'll put them in the description below so you can look at them and shop around, see what odds you can get. There are so many different platforms now, and if you fancy tailing some of these bets, then go for it. We do it for fun, as I say, but we hopefully know a little bit about the game, and that's hopefully been evidenced in the nature of our chat today. Sure. Although some of it might have been bollo, I don't know. But anyway, I know we need to keep this to time, Charles. So lovely to see you.
Likewise.
We'll see you for the game on Saturday, and we'll do a follow-up pod on this early next week and see how we've done, because all these bets are going to play out by Sunday, aren't they?
They will. Yeah, so we'll know.
Well, apart from the futures one, clearly, but
For sure. But that'll be sometime next May where you know, you'll be more grey and I'll still be just as specky. So
I couldn't be more grey. Well, I could be more grey, I suppose.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on that personal jibe, well, I'll say good night and God bless, and I will see you for the game on Saturday.
For sure. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Nice to see you.
Incredible!